Hello and welcome to Satsang. Namaste. So, part of my role is to keep people inspired on the spiritual path, like motivated to keep going. I was just kind of talking about that, working on it day after day. Keep going, never give up. So, like for me, it's not like I say, oh, today I'm taking a day off from spirituality. It's my vacation. It's not really like that. Many people, they come to gatherings kind of like as a hobby or a show. Like, I also play baseball and soccer, and I go to spiritual gatherings. It's my hobby. So,
Like a play.
So yeah, something to do for fun. And I kind of encourage people to take it as a way of life, where every day I look how to transform myself into spirit, really. And why is that important? Because most people don't get there. They don't get to Buddhahood. I'm going to put that in quotes, but Buddhahood, they just don't get there. There are not many Buddhas on the street. You know? So you have to keep being reminded that you're a pure spirit. There's only spirit. You're a pure spirit. You have to keep reminding yourself day after day. And you have to keep exposing yourself to the spiritual energy. If you tune into worldly things every day and you discard the spiritual transmission, you'll be worldly, you'll be material. Your experience of life will be material. And that will only bring you so much happiness. Material happiness is very limited. As an example, how long does, when you eat, let's say, a bowl of ice cream, how long does that pleasure or happiness last? Maybe 30 minutes? You're just thinking, oh, that was such good ice cream. Maybe for 30 minutes. But then after that, then what? Then you have to get your next fix. Say, okay, what do I need to do next to get myself some more pleasure so I can keep on the happiness bandwagon? And that is really tiring to spend life chasing after happiness. Why can't we just sit in the closet all day and be totally joyful? Why do we have to, let's say as an example, go to the beach, or as I was joking, go to Disneyland, or go to this person's house or this person's house? Usually we're trying to go somewhere else to get happiness, rather than finding the happiness welling within, like an eternal spring. So, in a gathering like this, it's meant to trigger that eternal flame of happiness for you, so that you don't need other things or other people to make you happy. You will be independent, right? From the world. That's a great achievement. While the rest of the world is chasing after the bones, you are internally. And that's why you'll read stories of yogis that will sit in a cave for 14 years. There was a one yogi from India. He sat in a cave in India for 14 years. And during the 14 years, there were some people who decided they wanted to test him. So one person came in and threw some like gasoline on his lap and lit his lap on fire. And he burned, but he didn't wake up from his... Someone noticed and put out the fire, and then he was burned, and he was still in pure blissful meditation the entire time, even while the fire was going. That's a real story. that happened, right? So that's what I mean by the outside. If you're in communion with spirit, you're not the body. Body could get sick, it could die, and you're good because you're not in there. You're spirit, and spirit is eternal. It's not bound by time. It's not bound by elements, and it's infinite. It has no location. And those descriptions, again, are very difficult to understand by human mind because we're so used to being embodied. That we, as I was saying before, we relate to the costume of the body and say that must be me, because it's a constant sensation of I'm a body, I'm a body, I'm a body. And very few people will come to a gathering just to reverse that and say, how do we go from being a body and a mind to spirit? So I guess the real question for me is, how do we keep you inspired to get on a roll where almost like your spiritual path becomes a kind of obsession in a good way, where we're always thinking, well, how could I break through my limitations in this circumstance? And we were talking about that, right?
Yeah.
If you're not used to boundaries, then you set a boundary. If it's hard for you to set a boundary because you get nervous because that person might get upset at you, then you try your best to set a boundary and you go through your fear. And each time you go through the fear of doing that thing which you normally don't like, and you try to, kind of relax into it, breathe into it, and just like, okay, and then do it and face your fear. What happens is that fear gets a little bit more purged from your nervous system. So the next time you do it, you're more stable. And you're able to, and now you purified yourself by kind of going against the normal egoic pattern that says get afraid because the person might not like you, because the person might yell at you, the person might hate you, the person might not be your friend anymore. Sometimes we have to do those things for the greater good of everyone, not just you, but that person as well. So the daily looking at ourselves and seeing where we're reacting and where we're following our normal habits and breaking through those patterns, or what I call it, getting into a rut of doing and being a certain way. Because once we get into the rut, that's our character and our personality, and we get fixed like that. And that's what I mean by building a strong identity. So think right now of a habit that you have every day. Maybe, I don't know, you drink coffee in the morning. So you say, for the next week, I'm not going to drink coffee. And that's going to be my breakthrough of that pattern. And not only that, but I'm going to do it in honor of my soul. You have to have a context behind it. You can't just say, well, because it's hard to break through certain habits when we're so used to it. We really want to do it that way because that's the comfortable way. And we may even defend and say, oh, well, that's just my most comfortable way and that's how I was built. No. You can unbuild your built. If that makes any sense. Yeah. Unbuild your makeup. Rearrange yourself. You say, okay, no more coffee. Instead, I'm going to drink tea or whatever it is. And I'm doing this, and now I'm drinking this tea in honor of my spirit. And then you're drinking, and you're just thinking, I'm getting closer to spirit. Or whatever it is that inspires you. Like, this is my spiritual practice, releasing my coffee for the week. It may seem like a small thing, but I'm telling you, you're making a statement to the universe. Each statement that you say, I'm not going to fall into my normal identity, I'm going to focus on spirit. You break down that identity more, and you become more open, more spacious, closer to that divinity that every soul is looking for. When I say every soul is looking for, you may think, well, then why isn't everyone sort of eagerly following the spiritual path and looking for God? if that's what the goal of the soul is to come back to the divine. Well, consider that we are looking for happiness and we think we've found it in the world. So we live under the delusion that I'm going to find it in the bowl of ice cream. And so I'm going to eat and gobble this up. And since we get that bit of happiness, that's enough to say, okay, yeah, that'll satisfy me. And we may not really be aware of spiritual energy. The obvious, the material feeling and the senses, you can get immediate gratification from that, right? That's easy to get. Any person can get that. But when you talk about doing spiritual work and transforming yourself, that is a commitment. Do you know how much work I've done on my spiritual path since I first started? I mean, this is like not as easy as one may think. Just to, as I say, I could easily just go back to my old life and say it's much easier just to go back, and because I used to play hours of video games and go out and, eat pizza at restaurants and things like that, all that stuff. Oh, and this is an interesting thing, I used to run a lot, a very serious, avid runner. And what I loved about it was the competition, winning. And once I learned what my motive was behind running, then I stopped it. One day, it was age 31, I still remember, I said, I'm no longer committed to competition. That's part of my identity, I'm leaving that behind. And I quit running. Because I didn't want to, and I had been running since I was 6 years old. So that's what, 25 years of intensely competitive running, which I had built my identity on of winning. I wanted to win so badly that when my parents watched my cross-country or track race, at the end of the race, if I placed second, I would be crying. And they would come up to me and want to congratulate me, and I said to my parents, leave me alone. I want to be by myself. I messed up. I placed second. So, I mean, that's strong, right? That's a deep identity with, if I compete and I win, then I'm going to give myself value. How do I bring more value to me as I win? I prove to people that I can do it. I'm a winner. And then that I get more self-value out of that. Now I have no more running. I mean, I actually still run, but now it's just for the body, to help with the body, to keep it in shape. Maybe 15, 20 minutes a day or so. But it's for a totally different purpose now, rather than competition. But you see how I had to purify that part of my ego that wanted to win. And that was part of the identity of, I have no self-value if I can't win. And so consider how dramatic that is. Of a lifelong pursuit of winning to, nope, done. My spiritual path is more important. You think, oh, that's a sacrifice. But I knew that if that competitive need was dissolved, that there would be much more space for the grace to arise in my being. I'm kind of trying to sweep my insides clean. Because if there's more space there and not so much darkness or heaviness or whatever, then the light has room to arise. Then when I come to a gathering like this, the light, it's easy to connect. Because I did so much work on myself before to clean my house. And it's not just that, it's also my physical space. I want to make let's say I want to make my room as my temple. I want to invite God into my physical room. How do you invite God? You clean up your room.
That's true.
In honor of
That's right.
Spirit. Not because, I'm so perfect and I need to be just right, everything. And when my guests come over, they can see such a beautiful looking room. No. You say, today I'm cleaning my room to cleanse my space, to invite the divine there into my room. See the perspective change? Mm-hmm. I have a different motivation. Instead of a selfish motivation, I have a motivation of, I want my beloved to come. I'm waiting for my beloved. I'm waiting for my God to come and dwell in my room. And again, it could be your body, it could be your emotions, could be your mind, whatever you want to cleanse, to make room, make space for the divinity or the energy or the presence to arise. You must clean that space first. Then it kind of gets a person excited. Yeah, I really want to do that. Now I'm consecrating my life to the divine. That's what they call it, consecrate. I'm doing everything in honor of when I say my beloved, a lot of times people have a particular God in mind as representing their beloved, like Jesus. Mm-hmm. That would be considered the beloved. So if that's the case, and it is Jesus, then you say, okay, well then I'm cleaning my room so Jesus will come and be with me tonight and sit on this chair. And I'll even prepare my chair. I'll put a white cloth over it, make it just right, light a little bit of incense and just make it nice. And you can sit right here. Some saints, that's their path. And you know what that path is called? The path of devotion. Or in Sanskrit, in India, they call it bhakti. Bhakti, B-H-A-K-T-I. Where you're doing little things in honor of your deity. So maybe you have like a little statue. So let's say if it's Christ, maybe Christ, you clean it. Maybe you put a little jacket over it, some shoes, whatever. I don't know. Something. You're like really. You're really like, oh, this is it. This is so, because we need some sort of symbol. We need something. And so people, I thought, this is going to sound funny and kind of maybe corny, but so you can see Swami Purna there. I even thought of making a doll of Swami Purna. I was like, oh, here's a little doll. And I make him a little dhoti. You know what a dhoti is? In India they wear these almost like a skirt. That's what the yogis wear. A little dhoti, a little sheet they wear over like this, and a tilak. Tilak is like the dot that they wear here to remind you of the third eye, your third eye consciousness. Make them a little. I thought of that. So, and some people do that too. Actually, they take their deity and they dress it up, and it's like they're taking care of God, and this is their symbol of God. And that's how they make temples. So a temple, they say, this is a holy space. So if you come into this place, we're going to ask that people, if they do talk, that they speak of holy things, that this is a sacred place. And you can do the same thing with your room or whatever room that you want to be your temple. Say, okay, to your family, this is going to be our holy place. And if we go in here, then, the only thing we do is meditate, we pray, and we sing mantras in honor of the divine. That is what this room is for, because we're going to invite God into this room. And so you do this for a while, and it builds the energy in the space. And then when you walk into that room, you feel fantastic. It sends you into a meditation right away. You haven't even done anything, except you built up the energy. If you go into a place where there's a lot of worldly conversations going on, and you try to meditate, it's much harder, because the energy is at a mundane, a physical level. You're trying to create a spiritual presence that will shift you into a state of consciousness. How do you do that? Do you see what I mean by creating a temple? So, same thing goes for taking care of the body. If you want God or the presence to infuse the cells of your body, then each time you eat a meal, you choose mindfully what you eat. What am I going to feed this body to make it a temple? Now you're treating this as like a holy place, not just a body to give it pleasures, which is a lot of what people do. They use the body to get as much pleasure as they can out of it, to milk it. And then, that's body consciousness. How are you ever going to reach spirit if you're focused so much on trying to make the body pleasured? So the yogi would say, well, then one way to do it is to change your diet a little bit and say, well, instead of, I don't know, let's say bread or something. Instead of bread, I'm going to eat fresh leafy green vegetables as my sandwich, and then put whatever in between I've actually done that. Some restaurants do that. Would you like leafy green vegetables for your buns instead of bread? They do that already. So you do that, and then you say, then this is my one so-called sacrifice for God. And you could say a sacrifice. Some people call it, in Christianity, they would call it a sacrifice. You could say it's an honoring. How do I change my diet to add this other dimension in honor of my spirit to make my temple clean? And I'm telling you, you eat a lot of green vegetables, it'll start making your body quite sparkly. And then, again, when you sit in a gathering like this, the cells of your body have more space in them to receive the light. And your cells become spiritualized. You know what they call that? Divinizing the body. That's a term. Divinizing the body.